welcome to this week's episode of the Rebirth podcast. My name is Caitlinhill. I just want to say thank you so much for all of the love and support that I received after the launch of my podcast last week. It was just so beautiful to receive so many incredible messages and love and so much encouragement for me to continue going. And I am so grateful for that. If you could, please go over to the Apple podcast and leave a review. If you feel like I deserved a 5, please leave a 5. And you can also leave a written review as well. It really helps me out and helps me to grow my channel and to continue bringing you the good stuff. So I would really appreciate it if you would do that and give yourself some good karma. Why not? So today I will be talking about how my birth with my twin girls, changed my life. I will start by giving a little bit of a backstory, but first I want to just give a little disclaimer because I am not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm not giving out any medical advice. I am just simply sharing my story here, people. I would never give or tell someone what to do because that actually goes against everything that I believe in. My belief is that if we tap into our own intuition of what we're meant to do and how we're meant to do to give birth, but just do anything in general, that is how it's going to go the best for us, no matter where you choose to give birth. So just know that this is just me simply sharing my story and talking about how much it's changed me as a person and as a woman and as a mother. So, I'm just going to give a little bit of a backstory into kind of why I initially chose to have a free birth with twins. Basically, I always knew that I wanted to have a home birth I wanted to have a home birth with my first daughter as well, but I went way too deep into my fear mind and I didn't really allow myself to get to the point that I needed to get to in order to home birth her. I did a lot of work, like I did Hypnobabies and, I informed myself a lot about birth. I learned, as much as I thought that I was supposed to know up until that point, but I still had this element of doubt that I couldn't do it. And so I chose to have a hospital birth, and it was a beautiful birth because, it was my first daughter. There was a lot of things that I would have done differently in hindsight, but I ended up learning from that experience to then go on to have my twin free birth here, right outside these doors, with my twin daughters. So basically what happened was I initially thought that I was going to be having a home birth before I found out that I was having twins. And then when I found out that I was pregnant with twins, at I believe it was my 9-week ultrasound, I then was, okay, can I still have a home birth? I didn't really know what that meant. I was, right off the bat, was branded and stamped with this high risk label that is quite a scary label to have put on you. And so I wasn't allowed to give birth at home anymore with a midwife. I had to then give birth with an obstetrician in the hospital. And basically started out that journey, was set up with an obstetrician, and, I continued to go and I would ask questions like, well, can I have a water birth in the hospital? Because sometimes that's possible, is that there are tubs there, and you can have a water birth in the hospital. But I was always met with a lot of resistance and just basically no. And so that was, those were really hard pills for me to swallow because I had this vision of having a home birth, actually specifically right here for so many years. Even before I had my first daughter, Safia, I had this vision of giving birth in our home. So, to hear that I wasn't going to be able to do that was really hard, and I felt gutted, to be honest, and just totally out of alignment with having to make choices that I was I don't even want to be making these choices. Why do I have to do this? And so I kind of, continued on with that journey. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I want to have a home birth. Like, what can I do to make this happen? And basically, I chose to leave the system, and I had hired a doula, mostly because I really wanted to have someone else that was going to be in our corner for support. But also with twins, I knew that we were going to need the extra hands. So yeah, we hired a doula. I basically chose to not give birth in the hospital with an obstetrician, the one that I had, or any, because I actually interviewed quite a few, and I couldn't find or meet anyone that would support the kind of birth that I wanted to have in the hospital, which was obviously, again, it was the water birth. And then I really, most importantly, wanted to have my daughter Safia there, and so those things weren't being met for me. So I continued to listen to this like voice that was inside of me sort of from the beginning, that was saying like, you can do it on your own. Like, you can do it your way this time. And that was a very scary voice initially, because I was like, oh no, my God, I don't want to be half feeling this way. Like, I felt that it would be so much easier if I could just go along with what was being presented to me, which was that, just go and have the birth that they want you to have. Go have it in the hospital. Like, that was kind of my like practical mind, like, was coming in telling me like, no, you just listen to what everyone's telling you to do. But the voice that was inside of me was so strong, and it was like a fire that the more I fed it, the more it just continued to grow. And I truly believe it was my calling to have these babies at home. And it just, the more I listened to it, the more it continued to grow, and just, it got to the point where I was like, I couldn't not listen to it. So basically, chose to leave the system and the path that was being laid out for me by others, and decided to forge my own path. And I was like, I just want to give birth right here. This is where I feel safe and private and unobserved. That's what Sarah Buckley always says. Safe, private, and unobserved. That's how your birth will unfold the best, for a physiological birth to unfold. So I was actually right here, just over here, doing yoga, looking out at the view I'm looking at now, and I was just looking at the trees. I was looking at the birds flying by, and I was like, this is where I feel safe. And I just knew that this was the right place for me to do it. So basically from there, continued on with my pregnancy, and I just took care of all of my own prenatal care. I ate exceptionally well. Just like organic all the time, organic dark leafy greens, the highest quality supplements on the market, really tapping into like my intuition around food and eating. We'd actually been vegan for, I believe it was a solid year prior to that birth happening, or at least before me getting pregnant. Anyways, I actually received the guidance to eat raw oysters, which, that's like a big no, don't eat raw meat when you are pregnant. But that was the cool part about having a free birth, was, I was able to sort of really listen to what it is my body was telling me, instead of following some guidebook and rule book of what it is that you're meant to do. So it was pretty confronting to have all of this stuff come up for me around like, what can I do? What can I not do? I was so used to taking advice from others and not taking full responsibility.
Hello.
Oh, hello. We've got a guest here. Hi, Matisse. Okay, just
Cameo,
making a little
welcome
Matisse
to the pod.
cameo.
Welcome to the pod.
Okay now. No, I'm just joking. We're going to have Matisse on many, many, many times, I'm sure. And yeah, are you taking the babies for a walk?
Yeah, we're at it.
Okay, are you going to the farmer's market?
See ya.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Bye. So funny. Yeah, anyways, where was I at? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's what it was. So I was not used to taking full responsibility for my life. You know, I was so used to asking others for advice on things that this was the one thing. Oh, and also we chose not to tell anyone that I was going to be having a home birth with twins. Nobody. That was a choice that we made. And obviously in the perfect world, I would have shared that with the world and told everyone, but I didn't want it to be sabotaged by anyone else's fears. And the only person's fears that I wanted to be dealing with was my own and Matisse's. So yeah, we made that conscious choice, and I'm glad that we did. But yeah, to be taking full responsibility for something in your life, no matter what the outcome will be, like I really had to face some deep, dark stuff within me. Like, what if something does go wrong? What is that going to look like? Am I going to be able to handle that and live with myself? And, you know, the honest truth is that I didn't know what was going to happen. I felt my gut was continuing to tell me that everything was going to be okay. But, you know, in life is unpredictable. It is. And birth is as safe as life gets. So there was no guarantee. And I had to go to the deepest parts of myself to really trust that it was going to work out based on my intuition. And that was my North Star, really, was just continuing to come back to that I knew that I was going to be okay. And if I had had any other guidance other than that I would have listened to that, of course. So yeah, basically, that was kind of how I chose to initially come to having a free birth. And of course the birth, you know, my projected due date was August 8th, which was their date that was projected from when I had my initial ultrasound at 9 weeks. And I always told people, like, their just guess dates, I think it's like 4% of women have their baby on their actual due dates. So I didn't think that was going to happen at all. And it did. Like, I literally gave birth to them on their actual due date, which is just like so incredibly mind-blowing. Again, with the trust and the when I look back on it, it almost like gets better. Like when I look at my birth from a distance, it's like when I think about it, it actually continues to inspire me more and more. Like, it's not something that just happened and it was just like a blimp in time and like that's it, you know? And it's amazing how I can look back and be like, wow, like that was the birth of our daughters. You know, it was like on their due date, you know, they were 11 minutes apart. They came out so beautifully. And that birth was hard, you know, like I don't believe that, you know, of course I think it's totally possible to have an easy, pain-free birth. Absolutely. But that birth was like, that was not easy. No, I would not call that easy. I do think that the pushing part and when they were coming out was, when I look back on it, I'm like, that was quite pleasurable, actually. I wouldn't go as far as orgasmic, but it felt so good to be pushing those babies out into the water, into the warm water. It felt amazing. But yeah, that birth was very, very hard for me. And I truly believe that there's something in birth that is meant to be that way. Like, I don't, you know, trust me, I had an epidural with my first birth, and some women absolutely love them and swear by them. It was not for me. I did not like not being able to have control over my body, of where I wanted to move and where I wanted to go, you know, like laying flat on my back to be giving birth and pushing a baby out did not feel good to me. So to not be able to like walk or move or feel like I had, you know, just movement and choice and control in my birth. To be kind of bound to a bed did not feel good to me. Yeah, maybe I wasn't in as much pain, but I felt like I kind of like spiritually bypassed some of the pain that maybe is there for a reason. Maybe the pain holds and carries medicine within it that is meant for us in our mothering journey. Because I felt like I actually bypassed pain in that birth, in my first birth, but that pain came up much stronger for me in different ways, especially in my postpartum and that initiation to motherhood. That was really challenging for me. So to go through that pain later on was much more challenging. And just looking at hard things as being the medicine. It's not something that we're supposed to just avoid or not feel or go through. You know, we live in a society that doesn't want to go through hard things. We don't want to feel pain. We get a headache, we take a pill. You know, something's hard. It's like, ooh, no, I don't want to do that. But maybe that's where the medicine lies, is within those moments that are being presented to us that are really hard and challenging. But it's there for a reason, to teach us what it is that we're meant to go through so that we can come out on the other side that much stronger. And I really believe that that's what happened to me when I look at both of my births. I look at one where I felt like I kind of did spiritually bypass a really hard, moment in my life. But when I look at the birth that I had with the twins, that was also equally challenging, but I let myself really go through it and I let it change me. That was like nothing else in the world can compare to that. And I am forever grateful for that birth because it brought me down to my knees. Like that birth humbled me. Like that humbled the shit out of me, that birth. Holy God. I was like, whoa. I mean, the depths that it brought me to, like, I could not even believe what I was feeling. And I didn't even think that I was going to make it through at one point. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But the funny thing is that when I got to that point, that was right before, like when I reached that point of being like, I can't do this, that was actually right before the babies came out. So it's funny, like in life, I also feel like sometimes when we're being taught a message, it's like we get to that point where it's really, 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 really hard and you're just learning that lesson. And then on the other side, that's where it gets easier. So maybe that's where the medicine lies. The medicine lies within going through what it is that birth brings up for us and allowing it to happen to us and allowing it to transform and change us into the mother that we're meant to be. Because yes, my purpose changed when I first became a mother. Of course, my initiation from maiden to mother was huge. But I was also, with my second birth, my purpose was also changing. I was becoming a mother of 1 to a mother of 3 in a matter of minutes. So I trust that birth took me to the places that I needed to go to in order to become the person that I needed to become. And that's priceless. Like I could not, there's no work in the world that I could have done on myself that would have brought me to the lessons that I learned from that. And that shakes me to my core. That trust that I had to go through, and that just going through each and every contraction, knowing that it was getting to me holding my babies and to being with my babies. Like that gives me goosebumps just to think about that. So I do think that it is that birth is laid out the way that it is for a reason. And of course, every birth is so different. Some are short, some are long, some are pain-free, some are really freaking painful. And of course, some end in unexpected ways that no one can account for. But this birth was like, I always call it was like the most psychedelic trip of my life, because I've experimented with plant medicine before, and it kind of felt like this really long trip that I was going through, where it was like listening to my thoughts and just trying to control my thoughts, because really, like, birth is mental. Of course, a lot of it is physical, but a lot of it is like really telling your thoughts, like, and just being like, I don't want to say telling your thoughts, but just like knowing your thoughts, really. And, you know, some people might say, oh, well, you're so lucky, like you had this amazing birth. And absolutely, there was some luck thrown in there for sure. But there's so many more factors that went into me having the birth that I had. You know, I did months and months of rewiring my subconscious mind because I didn't want any limiting beliefs to come up during my birth. That was what I was most concerned about, was that I was going to reach a point where I was going to look at my doula and look at Matisse and try to convince them that I wanted to go to the hospital. And so that's why I spent so much of my time prior to the birth going through and sorting like every negative memory that I had and actually rewiring it in a positive way. Because I do believe in positive affirmations, absolutely. I think that they are, I use them all the time. And I also think it's really important to rewire those subconscious beliefs and then do positive affirmations, because if you're just doing positive affirmations on top of your subconscious mind coming from a limiting perspective, those positive affirmations aren't going to work in the same way, because your subconscious mind is stronger and it's going to override those positive affirmations when you are in your birth. And so I knew that that was really important for me in the preparation, along with so many other things that I did. But I really also had to learn how to differentiate my intuition and my fear, and really find out like which voice was I hearing. And I discovered that my fear is like this really naggy, like kind of like little kid within me vibes, which is of course just my ego, trying to keep me in check, trying to keep me safe. And it would just come at me with like the same story, but like in this really persistent way, like to the point where I actually have to stop in my steps and be like, shut up. Like, I don't need you right now. But also I'm saying that kind of as a joke. The best way that I found to kind of quieten that ego voice, that fear mind, was to be like, thank you, I hear you, I'm acknowledging your presence, and I am choosing not to listen to you right now. Whereas my intuition was like this much more like quiet, sort of subtle voice that I feel actually comes from my gut and my womb space. Interestingly, I feel like my fear comes very much from my chest, like it's like nah, 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 kind of vibes, and that's how I was able to differentiate it. But of course the fear mind is just from like, it's just that mind that we've had from when we were, you know, cavemen, that was just trying to keep us safe all the time and keep us down, keep us safe. And it's like, yeah, you're there for a reason, for sure. You're gonna try to keep me safe from like crossing the road when there's cars coming at me or whatever. And that's good. That's good to have that there. But we also have to understand that we have to train it to the conditions of the environment that we're living in now, which are very different. Like, I don't have like a tiger running at me in the middle of the night, you know? But that mind, that like mammalian, or was it mammalian? Shoot, I feel like I'm butchering this. I think it was like reptilian mind, the 3D mind, the ego. That is still going to be there. So just learning how to like go in between my intuition and my fear, that was a lot of it. You know, it was 90% mental for me, that birth. Because I already trusted my body. I knew my body was going to do what it was going to do. I didn't have to do anything to make that birth happen. I was like, I just have to let it unfold. And the only thing that can stop me is this, my mind. So yeah, it changed me, man. It made me question so many different things about what it is that we're told, just in life in general. If you kind of just like are living your life and you don't have that strong sense of who you are, it's really easy to get caught up in doing things that maybe aren't actually meant for you, but they're there, and people will definitely tell you what it is that you should do. But for me to just like take a step back and be like, what do I want to do? That was monumental. And my postpartum after that birth, like, was so good. Obviously I'm not in that state right now. So when I look back on that, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe we went through that. Like, I was breastfeeding 2 babies throughout the night, every night. And of course, just like producing so much milk and eating so much, and we were in it. Like, we were so in the thick of it, Matisse and I. And it was challenging, that's for sure, without a doubt. But I do believe that my birth made it easier. A lot easier. Because I walked away feeling empowered as fuck. Like, I was so empowered. I felt like I was like walking around with a freaking Wonder Woman cape on after I gave birth to them. So to be, breastfeeding them and being there for them and having a baby on me 24/7, that felt like nothing in comparison to my birth. So again, that just shows what I was talking about before, about like maybe our birth is meant to bring us to a place and is meant to put us through things to make us stronger. And to, when you bypass that pain or you bypass the things that the birth is meant to show you, maybe that makes it more difficult after the birth. And so postpartum was like, considering the fact that I had twins and at that time a 3-year-old, I don't think it could have gone any better than it did. I mean, we had so much support that we asked for beforehand, and just my expectations of what I knew it was going to be like. And I do think that that's really hard to explain to a new mom. Like, when you think about how do you explain to someone what you're going to be going through postpartum for your first birth, I think there's just an element that they have to go through. Like, I can tell them what, when I'm doing coaching calls for my mama coaching calls for women that are about to give birth for the first time, I'm just like, there's just some stuff you're just going to have to learn on your own. And again, that's the medicine that I was talking about. But I think shifting expectations, like once I knew like I was going to be up all night and I was going to be feeding around the clock and I was going to have a baby on me 24/7, that made it a lot easier, I think, in during my postpartum time, for sure. And yeah, just knowing that I could do anything. Like, I gave birth to twins. I can do anything that I put my mind to. One of the craziest things that I've noticed since giving birth to twins is that my drive for creating has gone up like immensely. I feel like I used to actually be kind of unmotivated and uninspired before having kids. And now it's like, all I want to do is everything all the time. Like, I'm like, go, 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 go. Like, you know that expression, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. I feel like that was created about someone that had twins, to be honest with you, because I'm just like going all the time. And, whether it's cleaning or, doing crafts or doing laundry or driving kids somewhere and playing with kids or whatever that thing is, it's like so nonstop all the time. And so my brain has kind of like up leveled. Like, when people are like, how are you doing all of this? I'm like, I don't know. There's just been an expansion in my brain since having twins. And again, I do think that came a lot from my birth and how I gave birth, because if I had had a really traumatic birth experience, I believe it would have looked very different for me. I wouldn't have felt motivated. I wouldn't have felt inspired. I wouldn't have probably had a positive postpartum time. So again, going back to how this birth just like, it rebirthed me. That's what I'm trying to say. I was wondering where I was going with that, but it rebirthed me. And I am so grateful for the birth that I had, and I'm just so grateful. So grateful. And yeah, just going to those levels of trust within myself. And yeah, again, I'm going to talk about this again one last time, but sometimes I feel like I repeat the same thing over and over again when I'm super stoked about something, but I'm like, I'm so stoked about this thought that I had. Actually, it came to me in a dream last night, which is funny, about me actually explaining to someone else, to a friend. I was telling her, like, maybe the medicine lies within the stuff that we go through that's really hard and challenging. And maybe that's how we grow as humans, is we actually grow by going through the hard things rather than avoiding it. Like, we don't really grow that much when everything's easy. Like, it feels great. It feels like an incredible relief, but maybe we need to go through that message of change for ourselves, and to let it change us and allow it. Anyways, I think I'm done with this spiel for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Again, please go to the Apple Podcast. It will take you all of 3 seconds to rate my podcast. If you feel like it deserved it, please give me a 5-star and leave a comment and a written review. I guess that's kind of the same thing. But thank you so much for watching this week's video. I can't wait to, and audio, I can't wait to bring more content, more conversations with different experts and thought leaders, and to just share so much more of what I'm going through, and just wanting to hear about what others are going through and their their thoughts and their opinions on different things. And yeah, anyways, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're having an absolutely beautiful day. I'm sending so much love and light to you wherever you are on your journey. Just keep on going. I trust in you, and I know that you can do this, and I'm sure somewhere deep inside of you, you know you got this too. So anyways, thank you so much for listening. Ciao for now.